Alright guys, so we had finished and did number 83. We did that on the boards. So, in this, we're going to pick up 84.
Thomas, do it.
Wait a minute, y'all were supposed to do 84. How'd that go?
It's not good.
Are y'all kidding me?
Good.
Thomas, do it.
Oh, hi, future name.
Hi, Kevin.
Jazz
Too
hands.
excited,
That's
right?
Play another instrument.
Okay, let's introduce our second instrument.
Second instrument.
I put butter on.
You'll find out what this does later.
Is that a cheese grater?
Oh,
Whoa.
I like
be
that.
sure to let Faber know.
That looks cool.
I had permission. I actually asked him, can I borrow some instruments so I can aggravate Mr. Hall?
And he said absolutely.
He said he didn't care.
Alright, let's see it.
Alright,
See how this
he'll start doing it here in a second. Trust me, you'll know. Number 84. We got a street lamp that weighs 150 newtons that's supported by two wires that form an angle of 120 degrees with each other. The tension the tensions in the wires are equal. So in this, it's like we have our lamp that is supported by two wires. And they form 120 degrees angle between them. We know that the street lamp has force of gravity, which is weight, that is 150 newtons. So in this, we are trying to find out what is the tension in each of the wires. So in this case, we're trying to find, I'm going to call this cable A and cable B. And we're trying to find the force of tension in both. Now the good news of it is they're both equal. And this is important. The reason this is important is we can figure some things out. So let's say, for example, I'm going to put it in this x-axis. Why am I putting in this x-axis? Because that's going to serve as the bottoms of my triangles. Because I can come off at 90-degree angles of it and get that. And the reason we would do such a thing, anybody can get an answer on this?
No.
No.
Y'all can work it.
A little. We tried.
We worked
We
on it.
attempted.
I'm from
We attempted it.
I weren't here.
Yeah. That's true.
Okay, so we have
Pop-Tart.
You have a 30-60
It's so freaking
tension of B
good.
in the Y direction. We have the tension of A in the Y direction. Why is that important? Because we know that the tension of A in the Y direction plus the tension of B in the Y direction is equal to, but opposite direction, 150 newtons. How do we know that? Because it's not falling through. The lamp's not falling. It's stationary. So it's not moving in the Y direction. Means forces have to be equal to each other. In this case, we're trying to figure out what the tensions of these are.
Okay.
I still,
Seven.
I figured like this would be where y'all would take it and run with it. That's
So
all.
what's
75.
It doesn't matter if you weren't here. You're here now.
So
Doesn't mean
that
I
plus
do.
that has to equal 150.
Yeah.
C.
So,
In conclusion.
in conclusion,
75.
75 plus 75 is 150.
I think it's 75.
It's like balancing.
because-
Because it says the tensions in this wire are equal.
They're equal, and 75 plus 75.
Thank you, that's what I was looking for. We know that these
You
two
know-
are equal to each other.
I literally said the same thing, so you can conclude that.
You. Look,
So these two are equal, so it's the same as saying 2 tension equal to 150 newtons. And I just took the negative sign off because I would rather make that negative up there. So this is negative. So that we would have the tension is equal to 75 newtons.
So is that the answer?
So that's what I was getting ready to ask you.
No,
Why not?
What are we
because
trying
it's
to
never the answer. There's always something
What are
else we gotta
trying
find.
to
This is where if you had your books open, it would help you.
I don't know where my book is.
A, the tension in each wire. Yes, it's 75 newtons. In each wire.
But
find?
where's
Now
the but in this? Where's
Now
it
on,
actually?
on B,
What does B say,
I
Connor?
don't think it changes anything.
Huh?
What? Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So is that the
Those are not our wires.
Huh? Oh, yep.
So is that your answer?
No.
No.
I
That's on the
Well,
y-axis.
what have we got here?
Wait.
coordinates?
No.
No, we have an angle and a
We
side.
have a place.
Oh my goodness. We didn't have COVID, I could just high five you right now.
There, high five.
There you go, yeah.
Yay. Oh my god.
Let's hear the other one,
Shame
Thomas.
us.
All right, so in this, like we're saying there, so what is the thing here?
That's my favorite one.
So you guys can figure out these are 30 degrees, right?
How?
Because that's the straight line on the
science.
x-axis. They form 120 degrees between each other. So that's 180 minus 120 gives you 60. 60 divided by 2 because there's two angles, give you 30.
So,
So now you have a 60, 30, 90 triangle.
What?
like under those conditions, will it always be like that? Will they always
Under
be
these
equal
conditions, yes.
Like that?
Okay, so now in this we get a solve for, we're trying to find the tension in them. So literally it's just going to be the tension in A or B. That tension
This is getting
is our hypotenuse.
Don't do nothing.
Calculator, please.
So these tensions,
Butter on my puppy coat.
Thank you.
We ever put butter on a pot? Haven't done it.
oh gosh.
I mean, I did.
It's just thinking about them.
Okay, so in this we have the tension of A and B. So whenever we're trying to find this, we're going to come off from this angle. So we have this side now, and we're trying to find that side. So whenever you look at it, we're going to do sine of 30 degrees because it's opposite, which is the 75 newtons, because that's what we got here on these sides, right? Divided by, excuse me,
Sine of 30.
tension of A or the tension of B. They're both the same, so I just combined it. But I didn't want to do the two tensions and all that. Hopefully you guys get that that's just A or B. You just choose which one you want to look at. So in this case, whenever you solve it around, tension of A or the tension of B are all equal to 75 newtons divided by the sine of 30 degrees. Notice the key there. When you flip this around, you do your algebra. It's not being multiplied. It's being divided. So, when we jump in here,
Why would it be?
this is on the bottom. You got to get that by itself. Multiply both sides. So you multiply both sides by it. Well, then you got T of A over B times sine of 30. You're trying to get it by itself. So you're multiplying, you have to divide. You divide by sine of 30 degrees on both sides. So you find the tension. Do that to be 150 newtons.
But we already knew that.
No, you didn't.
You knew that the tension was going to be 150 newtons.
No, you didn't.
How did you know it?
Because the tension in these cables here is not always guaranteed to be equal to this.
So would the other one be 129.9038?
Well, I have no idea. Did it ask us to stop for that?
I don't know.
It makes you feel better, that's all. What'd you get?
129.9038
For what?
for the thingamabob.
That's not what I got.
I got 150.
Okay, so that's A.
Now B.
So let's look at B.
To be or not to be?
That is the question. Alright, so in B, if the angle between the wires supporting the street lamp is reduced to 90 degrees, what is the tension in each wire?
Okay. Have you ever seen a street lamp on just a wire?
2 wires, yes.
Seriously. That's a thing? Where's that?
Because it just hangs free. So you can just like V it out like this, it hangs up and over. You've seen stuff like this before.
Like stoplights.
So you've seen stuff like it before.
Can't say that I've randomly just seen like a street light hanging.
Alright, so now we changed it to where it's 90 degrees between them. You're going to do the same process. And this is a good area because this is going to show you that just because that's 150 is the weight, doesn't mean that's the force in these cables. So we're going to do the same thing. Everything's staying the same. Okay. The thing that's different here
The angle.
is you no longer, in math terms for you guys, you no longer have a 30, 60, 90 triangle.
There's a
It's 45. Because you have 180 degrees on this red line. It's 90 degrees, so that means you have 90 degrees to spare. There's 2 of them evenly split, that means 45 to both.
So it's 45, 45,
45 and 45. Right here's your right angles. This is the tension in A, and this is the tension in B. So you're going to do the same process. I'm not going to explain through and run through all that. You guys got that, but this is the tension of A in the Y direction. This is the tension of B in the Y direction. So whenever you're looking at it, we're going to do the same process. That has not changed. Why has it not changed? Because you have the force of gravity is still 150 newtons. The only thing we've done is change the angles. Since we've changed these angles out, these sides will stay the same, but the force in these 2 cables up here at the top is what's going to change. So we'll still have the tension of A or the tension of B. tension of A in the Y direction or tension of B in the Y direction, they're both equal to the 75 newtons. That doesn't change. What changes is whenever we jump over here to solve for the tension of A or the tension of B. It'll still be the sine, but now it's 45 degrees. Is equal to the 75 newtons divided by that tension of A or tension of B. So you do your algebra, you get that to where it's just the tension of A or the tension of B is equal to 75 newtons divided by the sine of 45 degrees. So when we punch this in the calculator,
106.066.
I've got that, but I didn't do it that way.
How did you do it?
6 point,
It's just easier for me to look at it and be like, 1 squared and 2.
you're using the triangle.
That's fine, it's the same premise, I'm just staying away from it.
But can I do it like I did that?
Yeah, that's fine. But it has to be that triangle. If not, that's the thing. Like, that's why I don't run with it, because whenever you're going with that, you're locking yourself into this applies in this one situation. When my method, doing the physics, applies in every situation, it does not matter what you're looking at, what you're doing. You follow these steps, you're fine. So there's number 84 questions. Y'all can get close. There's a
I drew a triangle.
do what?
I drew a triangle.
I really didn't even know what it was
Let me
doing.
finish.
Like the where you had like the T, A, Y, and all that. I never.
Moving your arm.
I can get this part, like the tension part. Yeah,
I get all that.
I just don't understand the friction.
We'll go back to it.
Gotta give.
You tell him, Mr. Evans.
He's an old man. Today's his birthday.
It's today's birthday? How old is he?
He's 57.
He's not that old?
Huh?
I think he was in his 60s.
Jesus.
My bad. I ain't say nothing bad.
Some physics problem.
Have at it,
Hello,
Thomas.
future me.
Hola, Senor Kevin.
Wait, I thought we were supposed to do Russian one day. Or was it German that we was going to learn?
How y'all gonna do Russian?
It's good.
See, I saw.
We're going to learn the few words to say, hello,
We
Kevin.
can't have a
And
phone.
One day we're going to stand in. One day we're going to stand in front of your camera, and I'm going to do how
It's a
future me
microwave
in sign
and a fridge
language,
and
and
one.
then everybody behind me's going to do
Something
podcast
yeah.
in sign language.
Mine's similar to.
Alright, so 215 Newton box is placed on an incline.
Nope. No. Not happening.
We
Sorry.
have
Connor, give me your pencil.
an
I
incline.
need it for a second.
No.
An
I'm asking you. I
incline.
need it.
We place a box.
Chrissy, don't say anything about ramps. It sounds like a taser. It gave me PTSD, low key.
215
From
Newton box.
A taser?
That is at a 35-degree angle. Find the component of the weight. What?
like
You got a wood pencil that I could use?
Yeah. That is parallel to the incline.
Why were you so specific that it had to be wood?
Because I got to fix my mask and I need it to be sharp.
do it as hard as you can.
You can throw it to me. You can't throw it to him.
Yeah, we know Clark can't.
Yeah, he dropped the ball, so I definitely can't.
But that thing went a mile high.
excuses.
Excuses. You should always catch a ball.
Especially the pop-up that was hit to you.
I caught the one before you.
All right, ladies, y'all can argue later.
Hey, you don't know what I identify as. Don't call me a lady.
Oh my god. Oh good.
All right, so in this, we're gonna do this free body diagram. So in this case, we got mass, the weight of this box, and we know
Gravity.
force of gravity,
Gravity
straight down,
is where.
and that is 215 newtons.
Oh, that's going a little cryptic.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry.
It's sliding down a little bit.
I really think that your eyes are messed up.
I mean,
You gotta get that checked out.
All right, so in this,
Yeah.
we are trying to find the x components. We gotta break this thing apart.
want your pencil back
No,
now?
it's going that way.
So that is force of gravity y component.
Why is that?
Why's it going that way?
It's going down.
Oh
we rotate the axis.
no.
Excuse me?
So we're
Nose
gonna
is
take
massive.
the slant like it's
Hang on.
the x-axis.
Okay, this is the thing. Whenever you put it on ramps like this, you want to turn it because y, the normal force,
I mean, I
is
do.
perpendicular
I do not.
Doesn't matter.
to the surface. So whenever we do this, it gives us, we have force of gravity. Force of gravity can be solved like that. Or it can be given to you. So you can use it, and you can use that information to get yourself to the answer you are looking for.
About time.
So, so in this, like I say, force of gravity in the x direction. Now, force of gravity in the x direction, that component we're trying to find. So these components we're trying to find. We're trying to find this right here. In this, what other piece of information do we need in order to be able to solve this?
Oh my god, why are you so aggressive?
So we have
Wait,
an
so is the
angle.
box on the bottom too?
No.
Why do you have a box on the bottom?
Because I said that's what we're trying to solve for, so I put a box around.
Oh, okay.
This
You clarify.
and sorry, I did clarify. That's when y'all were talking and I'm listening. So we need that angle.
Be so
We got that angle.
rude about it.
We got that angle.
So we're trying to find the force of gravity x component. So in order for us to be able to find that, when we look at this, it's opposite.
Of whatever.
So we're going to use the sine of 35 degrees is equal to opposite, which is force of gravity of x, divided by 215 newtons, which is the hypotenuse of our triangle. So do algebra, you find force of gravity of x is equal to 215 newtons times the sine of 35 degrees.
Okay, so whoa. If what you're solving for is on the top, then you multiply, but if it's on the bottom, then you divide.
Now, where
If
did
it's like in this situation.
Sure.
Oh my goodness.
123.3189 newtons. Question?
How'd we get 35?
Because it's on an incline of 35. And it's like what I told you guys before. So it's kind of like whenever you're sitting there, this is normally where the y-axis is, lining up.
That doesn't
So
look
now
good.
in it,
It's not.
Yeah, we have a straight line.
so what we do
Slightly
is we want the normal force. What's the normal force is perpendicular to the surface. It's pointing this way. We want the normal force to fall on the y-axis. So what we can do is reference point wise, we can rotate this around that point. So when we rotate it, how far do I have to rotate? 35 degrees, because we raised it 35 degrees. So in order for me to rotate it and it line up properly, I just need to rotate it equal to the same
Okay,
angle
so
I raised.
whatever degrees it is at that angle, will it always be from this angle? Like how you have 35 there, will it always be the same angle when you turn it?
Yes. If you're on a ramp.
Okay.
So 123.3189 newtons.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's the answer. I didn't label out the other forces because I didn't need to.
Okay.
If you
Good class.
You guys are allowed to have that.
So you can, we got 10 minutes.
I'm sorry, what?
And
Give
we
me, we
have
got
to
10 minutes.
rent our microwave.
Alright.
I want to show you funny videos.
Oh, here we go. No comments.
We're back to the good stuff.
No comments.
We're back.
Yeah.
Alright, number 87.
What happened to 86?
It's not the good stuff. It's not like number 69.
Huh?
Taxes?
No.
Like highlighter?
Yeah. Don't get a notebook.
Alright, 87. On here we got two blocks are connected by a string, so you can see here.
Is that marker on it? Like, what's
That
going
is
on?
marker. That is from my second year of teaching, I believe. I was using the book and I had a blue marker in my hand and I like that. I know, it's weird, right?
It looks like a
So- It is hanging over a frictionless, massless pulley, such that one is resting on the inclined plane and the other is hanging over the top edge of the plane, as shown in figure 26 as we see here. The hanging block has a mass of 16 kilograms and the one on the plane has a mass of 8 kilograms. The coefficient of kinetic friction between the block and the inclined plane is 0.23. The blocks are released from rest. What is the acceleration of the blocks? What is the tension in the string connecting the blocks?
I think that it's time for us to
25.
go.
It's not 25.
16.
37.
So, in this, we can get some information.
That's your
there.
catchphrase. In this.
We have nice. We can find
So, in
force.
this.
Did
We're
we not
gonna
do
make a
83?
we're gonna make a
We find
list.
force and we find
No,
acceleration.
we did
Did
83.
I miss it? I missed it.
We did 83 that day. I did it there and on the board.
Not on the right track.
Because y'all were like, oh, we went to solve it. I was like, yeah,
Oh,
that's
no, you
awesome. And then y'all like started to solve it and had no clue.
That sounds about like
Don't call us out.
Let us feel good for once.
Yeah.
Jeez.
What is this?
You gotta.
What the? That looks like. Oh my god.
Looks like an eyeball. Jesus Christ.
Wait, pause the video. Let me say what I thought. No, it's not.
It looks like a bird. It looks like a one-eyed bird.
No, it looks like a deformed penis.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
That's what it looks like.
It does. It does. It looks like somebody really who can't draw tried really hard to draw Phineas. And it's like his eyeballs like a bear. Like,
You even
Wait,
drew an
it's not the
eyelid,
video.
kind of.
yeah.
Are you just gonna keep letting it go?
He puts on a sprout of hair.
37 degrees.
Do you want to stop the video?
All right, so in this, we have the masses. So the mass here on this box.
I mean, that's his fault.
Box 1 is 8
Is it
kilograms.
37 degrees?
I didn't even really hear what you say.
Yeah.
Do you think that would be okay to
Yes.
for him to put on there?
What'd you say?
I think it would be fine. You didn't have to
Phineas.
sign
It-
A deformed Phineas, off Phineas and Ferb.
that. No.
Why would that be
I'm
bad?
gonna leave it.
I'm gonna leave it.
I said,
I'm sorry.
I
but
mean, we
if
weren't
somebody gets
saying
offended
anything.
by that and says that is so inappropriate, like you have offended and hurt somebody's feelings, I'm like, grow up.
Yeah, you tell.
you'll
You
see
didn't
when you
put
get sued.
You didn't put like a warning at the
Tell
beginning.
Queen, you tell.
Period, queen. Let's go, Mr.
Alright, that second one hanging off is 16 kilograms. So in this, we are trying to find the acceleration of the blocks. Now this is not as easy as you think.
Wait,
I think
One
that it's
block
not
is-
easy at all, so.
Mr. Hall, so one block is just floating in the air.
It's on a pulley
Right.
system.
I want that one.
Wait, so where one block is double the size of the other,
No.
okay.
That's literally me every day.
Would you mind drawing a little further up there so he doesn't look so lonely?
Won't you go and
I'll
stand
go.
next to it?
Can I draw further?
Just go stand next
No,
to
just
it. Just stand up there,
Just
please.
stand next to me.
No,
Please.
I want to draw the furthest.
Go stand next to him.
I don't want to.
Alright, so in this.
If you had signed up for the girls sectional day this
I
evening,
don't know what
you
they've
need to
done
come to the
already.
office at this time and sign up, and it's only if you have not signed up. Thank you.
Is there a thing?
What's that 8 go to?
That's the mass of the first block.
Mass of this block.
Okay.
So you got force of gravity, it's going straight down.
What time is
I
it?
don't look straight down, but
I'm gonna come watch it off.
it's literally curved at the end. Just
Do you not know how to connect a line with a line, like a dot to the bottom line, straight?
You don't know how to do physics?
No, I don't.
Exactly.
I'm not
But
bad.
at least I'm not acting like I
that's
can.
why we're in here.
I'm not acting like I can draw a straight line. I didn't deny whenever Miss Powell looked at me in ninth grade and said, you got this grade because you didn't use a straight edge. And I was like, it literally, I have the points marked. I know the slope of the line. Why? Said because you should also intersect at this line and your line is curved and it won't. And I'm like, so I literally got that grade because I didn't put a ruler to the paper. I showed you I know the math. She said, exactly.
You're telling me you have a ruler right
So,
there.
so you're
And you're still
that Miss Powell preached this to
Exactly.
you your whole life, and you still draw crooked lines.
She's probably the reason I'm teaching science,
With
not
the
math.
ruler right side of you.
Because I won't use a ruler.
Why not?
I thought he broke it.
I don't care. I literally
Why
never
are
use
your
it.
lines always so wavy? Are they
Yeah. Like, there's not a single straight line on there. The longer I look at it, like, look at the edge of this box. Right here. Like, it's got a lump. Not a single one is a straight line.
my lovely ladybug?
I mean, again, you still have the blue line right there and everything, and it
Even
just jumps it
the
a little bit.
16 is crooked. The 8 doesn't connect. The K is crooked.
Okay.
Y'all done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well. I like that.
Okay. Can we continue with our free body diagram?
Yes.
Nope.
Thank you.
This is more like a free
It's really a free body. Free. Ain't nothing strict on that. There you go.
freedom.
Yeah.
We're using.
Watch it still be like entirely off put.
He's gonna do it on purpose.
Look at that line. How crisp.
I'm so
Like, why is it? Oh,
Why did you?
that's bothering me.
See, it looks so much better like that.
He
Yes.
used a straight edge to draw an arrow.
That arrow still long.
Crisp.
What side?
Come on, Forrest.
It's the effing line.
That's where we'll stop.
We're so
When tomorrow, I mean not tomorrow, because
Thursday.
Thursday, I'll go back and draw my crooked line and don't care.
It's a long one.
Yeah.
Ni hao.
Why is it
future
long?
me.
No hair.
Ni hao.
Okay.
Kevin.
Oh, that was bad.
Let's go.
All
Yeah.
right.
All right, start over.
Ni hao, future me.
Ni hao, Kevin. That isn't that
Chinese.
Chinese.
I don't
Mandarin.
know. I just went thought about that show, Ni Hao Kai Man.
Yeah.
All
It's
right.
like
So, we started on this problem,
yeah.
and it's about to get really good.
Why does Phineas look so messed up?
So, in this,
His eyes popping
we
out.
have got to figure out a lot of things going on. So we had started on this, here on this first block, which is 8 kilograms. We had started looking at it and started doing our free body diagrams of it. So in this, we know that this block here will also have free body diagram.
Let's go ahead and get the ruler out.
Yeah.
Can I do it?
So in this, this block has weight
Oh.
No, it
coming down,
No.
which is force of gravity. We'll call it force of gravity 2 for block 2. We'll call this force of gravity 1 for block 1. Then also,
That has something.
What's that on?
Okay,
You gotta account for the pulley system. And
what's
the weight.
16 kilograms?
a mass.
Okay. The mass of
The second block.
the second block.
So within this, you're also looking
I should have.
at force coming from the tension.
Yeah.
So,
Can it not tell me my, like, season?
force of tension. Where's the force of tension coming from?
The pulley system.
Pulley system. So the force of tension is coming through here. Since we're on this pulley, it's the same as this right here, which gives us this force right here. This force of tension.
Is it the same force of tension?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now in this, there's something else. What's the other force? This is done. But there's another force.
The friction.
Force of friction. What type of friction?
Yeah, because of
Kinetic.
base rate.
Kinetic friction, because we know the boxes are moving. This box is sliding down, this box is going up. So what way is force of friction?
This
Down.
way.
Down the ramp.
It's like
Now, could we? Is this one of those things where it could be said that it was going up the ramp as well,
Depends on if
or
the
like,
force
is it something that depends on your reference point, the force of friction, or is it going to be acting against the force?
It's always opposite direction of motion.
Okay.
Always. So now, this is where everything gets interesting, because we're not so much caught up on this, besides to use our trick, because this
wait, I was getting ready to say,
will be broken
can we
in the
make
triangle.
a Cartesian system out of that? Or
No,
no?
we're making a triangle.
No, no, I mean like, okay, I get that part and finding the angle, but I mean like the normal force and stuff. Can we make or use that? I know
Do we need a Cartesian system?
kind of like the normal force, and then you know how like this is the opposite of that, and all. Where we started off at, not with the trig and stuff. Do you see how that kind of makes like a X, Y axis thing?
I think I go to the restroom.
Yeah.
Oh my
The normal force is falling on the y-axis.
Oh god.
You don't like it?
Maybe.
Okay. Here's the thing, we had to rotate that axis around, so we had to rotate.
Yeah, what would you have done if he said, yeah, I need
I'll say Connor, help you friend.
Nope.
So we got this angle here is 37 degrees. So then we have to figure out what the force of gravity of y is.
Yeah.
Should be equal to mass, block 1, times gravity, which is 8 kilograms, times 9.81 meters per second squared. Why am I not caring if that's a negative sign or not?
Because it
We don't
doesn't
deal with
necessarily matter right now.
It matters, but we don't necessarily care about it. Why?
Because it's the force.
No.
Because
The
we're
force.
gonna make it opposite for normal, right?
Because nobody cares about it.
Because I'm using it to find lengths of a triangle. So
Oh,
the
okay.
length can't be negative.
Is that 30 or 35?
37.
What?
I cannot see.
Wait, they can?
What?
They can be negative?
No.
Oh no, I wasn't talking about that.
Okay, for you to understand like how numbers work, okay, it's like
That's
You go to the
37
beach.
too?
Both of
You
those
take a
numbers are
bucket.
37.
you get a bucket of sand.
Huh?
So you pick the bucket of sand. In the bucket is 2 of sand. The hole that's in the ground is -2.
I have a question.
Huh.
What?
Why, like, if this was 37, if that was 37, like why? Why is that a thing?
Because we rotated our axis.
Okay, okay.
That's legal.
Yeah, we changed the reference point.
What? Okay,
Well,
hold on.
science
How
is
did we
legal.
rotate this? Like,
Like,
because then wouldn't that make this bottom quarter the 37 instead?
we're,
No. The axis is normally set in. Let's use this. Axis is normally set in like this.
Yeah.
So for me to rotate it, for it to line up right, I will rotate on that point this way
but that would
to where
make
it lines
the
up to where it's
angle-
on the normal force.
No, we're
So
not
from-
talking about, we're talking about like the whole angle right there.
The 37 degrees.
Yeah. You were talking about just the,
He's saying he's rotating at 37 degrees, but I don't.
but,
If the box was on the ground,
yes.
I wouldn't rotate it.
Oh, so it's
I
like.
raised it
it's
up 37. The axis
Okay.
did not change. For me to make the axis what it would be on the ground,
Okay.
I have to rotate 37 degrees. So I
Oh,
literally
So-
grab the center of the Cartesian system
It's like if the box.
and
was,
I rotate 37 degrees.
It's like if the box was here laying on the ground, it just went up 37 degrees.
Oh.
The axis didn't change, but the
Wait a
normal force
second.
changed 37 degrees. So for me to line it up,
So
I have to
if
take
you-
it and rotate 37 degrees.
Okay, I thought you were talking about rotating that triangle and fitting the triangle into that. But I realize now that I'm stupid.
You're not stupid.
I was gonna say yeah.
A little bit.
Okay. So now in this, we need to find the force of gravity, 1, in the x direction. And we need to find the force of gravity, 1, y direction, which are these two sides of the triangle. Puts everything on the x and y axis, so then we can solve and start actually figuring out how fast these things are moving.
Okay.
Uh,
Oh God. Oh no.
okay, I got choked. Sorry. This triangle on this side is just a bigger drawing of the little one we made, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
I just blew
Okay.
that up so you could see.
I was making sure.
Okay, so in this, we will now work. So, force of gravity, 1, x direction. So, that is force of gravity
He's breathing hard.
is equal to, so that was opposite over hypotenuse, so it's 78.48 newtons times the sine of 37 degrees. We'll find that. Hey, make sure you're in degrees. 47.2304 newtons. Now, likewise, we have to find the force of gravity, 1, y direction. The force of gravity, 1, y direction is equal to, this is adjacent to that angle. So 78.48 newtons times the cosine of 37 degrees.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
There's not a degree sign, is there?
Hold on, hey.
I think there is, but you don't have to put it in.
No, you can go down. Change it to, I didn't even know.
2.6769 newtons.
Hypothetically speaking, if we were on a quiz and we put 62.6770, would you count that wrong?
6779.
Okay.
Literally, in that case, your final answer is just going to be a little bit off, and I would literally just look and go. I'll probably like save something in my calculator and you didn't. If it's smidge off like that, I just go, yeah, it's okay.
So same way on those nomenclature stuff, if we miss a charge just by like one or two.
Oh, no. If you mischarge, you're done for it.
Just one or two, that's just a little bit. You might have calculated it wrong.
Yeah, you made it just save the number.
Okay. So now in this, the information we can gather is this opposes the normal force. So this and this, that force of gravity of 1 in the y direction we just solved for, is equal but opposite in direction. So now I would start applying some signs. Like I would make this one negative. I would make the down direction negative, and the reason I'm going to do that is because I want this to be positive, so whenever I'm solving for the force of kinetic friction, I don't have to worry about dealing with any negative numbers.
Madison Blankenship, report to the office. Madison Blankenship.
Now, normally the force of kinetic friction is opposite, or equal the opposite of the, what's it called? The one that goes this way.
Light force.
Yeah, but that'll
If
would
it's
be,
not moving.
The force
But if
applied.
it's moving, then it opposes it.
The force applied.
well, I was just saying it's going to be different than doing that, right? Like normal, because we have the force of
So
tension
we're making
applied.
gravity negative?
That's the force being applied, though, is that tension force. But all tension is like in pulleys and ropes and stuff. So it's like if you took a desk and you pushed it, that's a force applied. If you took a desk and you pulled it towards you, that's a force applied. If I took a rope and tied to the desk and pulled it, it's still force being applied,
Okay.
but it's where it's a rope, there's tension in it.
So we're just using, it's the same thing, but we're just using tension as like a namesake at this point.
Exactly.
Okay.
So in this, I can say that this normal force is 62.6769 newtons.
What if
Spit it out.
we labeled, I got a stutter, so what if you have like a, you labeled that, right? And you put force applied instead of force of tension, you would count that wrong.
No, you can label whatever you want to label.
Okay.
Can I call it Fred?
I don't care.
Heck.
That's my dad's name.
Breathe.
So now we got that. So now that's important because we need to find the force of kinetic friction, which is equal to the kinetic friction coefficient times the normal force. Which we gotta look back in the problem because I can't remember what the coefficient of kinetic friction between the block and the inclined plane is 0.23.
Yep.
So
So it'd be
UK
0.23.
is 0.23. So we get 0.23 times 62.6769 newtons.
Hold on, where that's,
Yeah, force of kinetic friction is.
okay, never mind, I got it.
I guess what I'm talking about, Thomas, is why I won't count wrong like you can see here. I'm taking that whole number, all those decimals, and I'm just using it in my calculator. You probably retyped it back in.
So now why is that 62 point whatever? What?
So that's the normal force.
What is it?
I thought that, oh, that's force of gravity and force of gravity. Okay.
That's what I thought the same thing.
Why is this in red? Why is the normal force 62.6769 newtons?
Yeah,
Because it's opposing each other up here.
okay. I see it now.
This is one of those problems you really got to be thinking. Like, there's a lot of thought here. This is why I like problems like these. You have to be able to think, process everything that's going on.
I can't do that.
I'd
Like,
like
I
to
just
read
found
it.
this answer. Now, I know I'm worried about motion, and motion's all going this way. Since motion's going that way, I'm going to make the back direction this way, opposite of motion negative. So now this is a negative number. This is important because I need the net force of the situation to figure this all out.
Net force. Period.
So, in this, we now get to look at, we got to find this force of tension.
No, no, dude, just take like Coke. That was weird.
It's like one of those psychological were you looking at my Coke when you drank it?
Yeah.
That's why.
So in this, we're going to figure out what force of gravity 2 is.
Scared me.
You're such a scared.
It was like. I don't like that.
It's opposite of asking T.
You know,
Yeah, but we're finding force of
you know how
gravity 2,
Coke is
which
like
is mass
sugar,
times gravity.
and you feel it kinda like-
That's where we're focusing right now.
So-
This mass is the second mass of 16 kilograms
Gravity.
times
Not
9.81.
meters per second squared.
Squirrel.
So it's 156.96 newtons.
Have you been having a good day so far, Mr. Hall?
That's a great day.
Me too.
I'm having a great
Living the
day.
life.
This is the line.
I mean, this is as good as it gets from what I hear.
Okay, now I have a question. Where this block is pretty much just hanging, what?
Yeah.
Never mind. Never mind. That's not the question.
No question.
Stupid.
I was about to ask if if gravity would take effect on the force of tension. I think it is a bit of a stupid question because I get you drawing right there.
Perhaps.
I ask
Yeah.
stupid questions all the time, this way.
I wish
That's like my special.
That's times I want. And when I say times, I mean every day.
I'll slap
It's
you.
like a run through where you just yell.
You would really slap a crippled man.
Yes.
Slap a man
With your
down.
crutches. I would take your crutches and
Yeah.
throw them across the room
It
and
really
watch
hurt
you
my
get
soul. Because
You watch me
she
come
was
in
like,
and rainbow
yeah,
crawl it
you
through the
have to simplify
Come
this.
on,
And I was like,
things and I'd forget the reason why.
I thought about that, but you had said that, like, it was okay. And then she was like, well, yeah, I'll give you partial credit. I was like, partial? What? I was like, listen here. I done missed like 5 of them because I left out
my
Max.
dad ain't finna let
Alright.
me do
What?
that. Them calculus.
Calculus. What do we do? Calculus?
Quiz today.
Quiz.
Quiz on the quotient rule.
Oh
and
my God.
make sure you know that psst thing.
Oh, I don't remember it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I missed.
The
Okay, so in
and
this,
remember,
we now know
Yeah.
this force of gravity 2 has to be equal to this tension force.
That's a,
Wait,
The
so
center's not breaking.
is both blocks moving, or is it only the
They
one
both
block?
have to move.
So what in the which direction is this block moving in? Would it
This block,
Uh-huh.
it's got to move down. Because what's pushing? What force is being applied to push it? Force of gravity.
So
It's just this natural weight pulling.
in this case, force of gravity would be bigger than the force
force of
tension.
gravity equals
Be greater than what?
The force of tension.
that.
Because if they were the same, it would just be at a standstill, wouldn't it?
That's the thing that makes this one like a really, really good question. Is when you look at this, you're looking at that point. The points moving, but that's because this weight is moving this whole system.
Does the force of gravity overcome? Does the force of gravity on that block, on the second block,
First or second?
overcome the friction coefficient stuff? Force of kinetic friction.
Well, yeah, because the force of gravity on the second block is 156.96, whereas the force of kinetic friction and stuff is like negative 14.
But you gotta think also, whenever we're looking at this, you can't forget about this force of gravity one in the X direction either.
Yeah, which is also lower than the force of gravity.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why these boxes are gonna move, is because this, if it was just hanging here, that force of tension, so if I held this pulley where it couldn't move, that force of tension is equal to the force of gravity too.
Yeah.
Because that rope's not breaking.
Right.
Okay? As soon as I release the pulley, that takes it to where this force can now, all of this is just going to pull down on this. That tension's staying the same. The rope's not going to break, but the rope can now move.
So the force of gravity would be greater than
The force of gravity and the
Hold
force
on one more
of
time,
kinetic
because I
friction.
couldn't.
The force of gravity, it will be greater than the force of tension and the kinetic force on the first block, right? Because if this block's sliding upward, the kinetic force isn't enough to keep it from moving that, or it isn't enough that keeps it staying that way. So it's being slid up, and this one's dropping down. So the tension isn't enough to hold this block in place. And the tension, the force of tension on this block would be greater than the.
This is the thing. The force of tension is enough to hold it. But
Yeah.
this is where I'm saying, see, this is why I like this problem. I'm making you think like you never had to think before.
Boom.
When you look here, if I take this pulley and I held the pulley can't move.
Correct.
So the rope, if I'm holding the rope there, the pulley can't, the pulley in me is not allowing the rope to move. The rope here, this is stationary. So this is equal to this. Force of tension is equal to the force of gravity 2 here.
So the second block is not moving.
It's the
If I'm holding it, but as soon as I release it, what happens? Then the pulley turns and will allow this to pull it down.
But it's
That's what I was
not.
saying though, like.
The force of gravity wouldn't be greater than the force of tension. It would be greater than that force of
The force of
the
gravity
weight.
here would be greater than.
the weight of that.
Yeah, the force of gravity 2 is greater than the force of gravity 1 in the X direction and the force of kinetic friction.
But it's not
Because we know the
greater-
blocks are moving.
But it wouldn't be greater than the tension, because if it was greater than the tension, it would snap.
Than
Yeah.
this tension?
Yes. These are the same because it's the same rope.
So the two forces of tension will be the same, even though that these are different weights? Or they have
Yes.
different masses?
Because it's
Because
still
this is
acting
not
on the
hanging.
same thing.
That's why it's not. That's why this tension, this isn't hanging.
So that.
Where does it, it's just sitting there. So what force is being applied to it? That rope that's connected here is pulling it. Where's the force that pulls on it come from? It comes from this side of the rope that's got the block that's falling.
Yeah, so. Hold on, can you say that again?
Sorry.
So this force of tension is
Yeah.
the same here because this box is just sitting here. So if I connect the rope there, but there's no mass on this end, there's no force being applied. What's applying this force? It's being pulled. This force of tension is pulling. Where is that force coming from? It's coming from this side of the rope
The force of gravity here.
that's pulling it down.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Like, this force of gravity will be greater than that because it's moving it down, and this is moving it up, and that force of gravity also be greater than that because the
You
block.
can't say this force of gravity be greater than that. They're equal.
But how if it's.
Because the rope's not
That's,
snapping.
This is what you have to see. This force of tension and this force of tension is the same.
So do I need to look at it as the force of tension is keeping the rope from snapping, or is what's keeping the rope from, like, keeping the rope from moving?
The rope can withstand the force of tension so it doesn't break. It's kind of like sitting in a chair.
So, like, instead of looking at it like the force of tension as if, like, I was to push that chair or something,
Like-
It's
Hey,
just allowing it to happen.
think it.
Yes,
think
it won't
first.
break. It's the same thing like normal force. So like sitting in a chair. Have you ever seen somebody break a chair?
Yes.
Okay, why did the chair break?
Of the force of gravity.
The force, the normal force was too great for the material to withstand.
Okay, I was saying that as this pulley was just pulling it, and that this was just keeping it from moving rather than like the.
Imagine
I was
Tarzan
saying- I was
swinging and
seeing the problem.
divine
So
power.
is it stationary? It's not moving?
It's moving. I'm telling you, if it's stationary, to try and get it in your mind that if I held it, why are these two equal? Because you're going to look, it's opposite of how I normally have you thinking. I normally look at you and tell you it's not moving in the y direction, so they're equal. But then you're going to look at this and say, what's moving in the y direction, so it can't be equal. But they are. Why is it moving now? It's because that pulley allows it.
So not because the tension is letting up, but because
The
that
tension, as
weight
soon
is
as I
great.
allow the pulley to move, that tension shifts from here, going up, to here. It goes to the other end of the rope.
Okay. But it's the same, like that one rope has the same amount of tension.
Yes, throughout the whole thing.
Okay.
So instead of labeling that as two separate forces of tension, couldn't you just make it one big instead, as far as looking
That's-
at it?
That's why it's confusing, because you guys aren't used to seeing how I label things. That's why I labeled this as FT, and that's FT. They're the same thing.
Okay, see,
But,
I thought this whole
wait,
time it was
that-
two separate forces of
When it-
tension.
No, like whenever I'm labeling, like the force of gravity is the perfect example.
Yeah.
So this is force of gravity 1. This is force of gravity 2.
But
So I
when-
label them like that so that when I'm working,
And then-
I know they're separate.
And
But if
then,
it's
And then I
force
know if they're the
of tension
same.
With the second block, it's going against the force of gravity. But if it's force of tension with the first block, it's going against the kinetic friction. Or
Not just kinetic friction. You're going to see that it's going kinetic friction and force of gravity 1 in the X direction.
but I thought
You
that-
break this apart. We broke this apart
Okay.
here in this triangle. This force right here is going in the X direction. There's a force coming from gravity in that X
Then you
direction.
have
So-
the normal force because it's to make it not break through that ramp or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
here's,
the ramp
So
can
if
withstand it.
that's like kind of staying there, why wouldn't it just be the kinetic friction acting against it? Because the normal force and the force of gravity will equal out.
No, force of gravity does not equal normal force. We're on a ramp. Normal force is perpendicular to the surface. Force of gravity is directly down. Force of gravity comes straight down. Normal force is straight up. Perpendicular to the surface, sorry. Normal force is perpendicular to the surface. Since we have it perpendicular to the surface, that's why we rotated the axis. It's easy for us to solve for these force of gravities. But when you're looking at the normal force, it's not. Because then you got a whole bunch of stuff that you got to worry about trying to break out.
here's mine.
It's the easiest way is to set this to where this is a hypotenuse. Find the sides. This is applying this. Okay, it's the same thing. If what you're saying would be true, if I put a piano on a ramp at 40 degrees, the piano would not move. Why does the piano move? I'm not touching it.
Because Roadrunner let go of it.
Whenever you look at it, even if we're saying, like, let's say Roadrunner let go. If the Roadrunner let go of the piano, why does it slide? There has to be a force in the X direction pushing it. Where does that force come from? It comes from the natural force of gravity. Because what happens, that force of gravity is the hypotenuse. That's the resultant vector. It breaks into X and Y components, and there's an X component pushing it.
So if we're to draw
The
box
force
a
of
little bit
gravity
down-
and the Y.
Hold on. I got two.
If we were to draw the block a little bit further down, would the force of gravity of the lower block be perpendicular to the force of gravity of the block early? Like, would they both be going in the same direction?
One more time.
Like I'm saying, it's like a block here and showed it coming down lower on the ramp, wouldn't these be perpendicular? The force of gravity is coming down.
Are you saying the force of gravity 1x and the ramp perpendicular?
Yes.
No. I'm saying like, or I meant parallel, not perpendicular.
Yeah,
Oh my
parallel,
gosh.
parallel, yes.
Okay, yeah.
This right here, this force of gravity 1x direction, is parallel to the ramp because we rotate our axis. This is the x-axis,
Right.
to where all of this will fall on it.
And then the force of gravity in the y direction is the opposite of the normal force.
Okay, no, yeah.
When you look, this and this and this is all perpendicular with that.
You've always going to have those things.
I was saying. Do you know what I was asking? Like, do you get what I was asking?
I think.
It's like if you drew like a box lower down on here.
Like on the level
Like as
surface.
if it was the same box moving, and as it was lower down to the ground off the ramp, would this force of gravity be parallel to this force of gravity?
So you're saying if the box was sitting
Like-
here,
The angle of this wouldn't change, no matter how high or how low it is, right?
Megan
If it's
Lester,
off the
Alex
ramp, it
Goodwin,
would.
Laker
Well, I
Ford,
mean, like, as
Colorado.
far as it's still on the ramp, like if it was on the edge of it, this wouldn't change.
as long as it's on the ramp, yeah.
Okay.
Everything you see there is true.
That's what I was looking for.
What are you doing? Put it away.
The force of gravity.
Purple's working hard.
Okay, so we can say that, yet again, I'm going to call this negative because it's going down. The reason I'm doing that is so that the force of tension can be positive and its opposite that in direction. So we know that it is 156.96 newtons. Man, this is a problem.
Yeah, I think that.
Are we done?
I say we just call it a day here.
This is Spencer ERA.
So, at this point,
What's my year?
we now are trying to find the acceleration. So we're trying to find the net force. So we're, either way you look at it, all of this in the x direction. I'm going to look at this point because I've got everything for that point, so I'm going to solve it all out. What's up?
Okay, where, how come is, force of tension is the same on both sides for both blocks?
It's the same road.
Why would you necessarily use the force of gravity for the second block to find it rather than using both the first and second block if it's got to withhold both of them? Or is that like, or,
This is on a surface. This is not. Where does the tension come from? If I had a rope on you right now, is there any tension on me? If there's a rope,
What kind of rope we talking about?
Wait, what?
just a rope. If you're holding a rope,
What did I miss?
what, okay,
So if you're getting hung in the
a rope.
a rope,
A
yeah,
rope. I have one end of the rope.
okay,
You have the other end of the rope. Is there any tension?
well, yeah, because
If
it's
you
not
pull
broken.
it, but you don't pull it.
So it's just hanging.
Yeah, you're just
There's
holding
one
your
in
hand.
Wouldn't there still be though?
In this, we're
But-
looking and saying the weight of
Yeah.
the rope's negated.
Okay, so,
Say it's medieval times.
okay.
Is there any tension? I'm not pulling it, you're not pulling it. It's literally just laying here.
Right,
Any tension?
no.
Okay, that's us sitting there. That's the first box. Okay? You have slid down a cliff face.
Oh,
I pass you a rope.
help me.
I'm holding one end of the rope.
Okay.
You grab the other end of the rope to climb up.
Tension.
Am I applying
Tension.
and putting any tension in it? I'm still on the surface. I'm holding it.
Okay.
Where's the tension coming from? You climbing up the rope.
So the first box is not moving.
But the pressure
The first box
on
is moving.
you to save her life.
She's got to die.
Okay? In that case, I think I could hold you. But if I took my little sister Hadassah on the other end of it, what's going to happen?
You're gonna
Gonna
die.
fall.
Y'all are going down. Why? Because she's holding one end of the rope, you're holding the end of the rope. She can't hold it with enough force to keep you from falling.
Emily Lawrence to the
So
office.
both of you move, you're both connected by the rope. The rate that you move at, the acceleration you have, she also has.
So,
Interesting.
Hadassah's such a pretty name.
so the first box is approaching upwards and this one's going down.
Little sister's name's Hadassah.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just not making sense
This
to
is
me.
too much for
Like, I don't even remember what I asked for all this to go on. I just, oh, okay, never mind. You remember.
This is the point we
Ask your questions. I'm holding for you to ask your questions.
So, if this is
Had to
active
be one of the two.
this
Yup.
way, wouldn't the
Ready?
force of tension take into consideration the fact that it's
Can you
active?
get on, Hunters?
Because this would have to be greater than this, a greater force than this to keep it from sliding this way, right?
Net force. That's what you're looking at now.
Oh my god.
Yeah, wouldn't you take the net force to find the force of tension instead of necessarily the force of gravity for the only the
I
same
worked it
block?
backwards because I can't figure it out. I can't, with the information I've been given, I can't figure out what that force of tension is because I don't know how fast this is moving yet. But I know that these points are connected, so however fast that would fall, allows this wheel to spin, so it's going to release and let all that come down. Well, I know this rope's not breaking. Since the rope's not breaking, I know that tension in that rope has to be equal to the force of gravity too. Since that applies, I know that that tension is what's pulling this block up. Since I know that,
So these two blocks will have the same amount of acceleration as it goes.
because they're connected.
Okay, but what about the different weights? Or how does that just not matter at this point? Or
Because this is sitting on a surface, we took into account net force. That weight, that mass, affects here. When you take the friction, because what does weight, when you look at normal force, what's normal force dependent on? It's dependent on the force of gravity. I know it's a force of gravity 1 in the y direction, but that is dependent on the force of gravity. If I increase the mass, I've increased the force of gravity, which will increase the normal force. And what is friction dependent on? Friction's dependent on the normal force. So you're taking it into account.
okay,
Because this and this will oppose that. Then we get the net force. From the net force, we can look at the masses. Because we'll find the net force, find the mass in situations, and figure it out.
okay.
It's a lot, I know.
I'm just trying to keep track of it.